understand the consequences or the motivations behind our own behavior. So I guess those are some implications for resisting normative social influence. Maybe find an ally, or earn what we call idiosyncrasy credits. You guys know what I mean by idiosyncrasy credits? No, this is basically, you guys mentioned what happens if you're with friends, right? Right. It turns out if you've got a tight-knit group of people you feel really comfortable with, you can earn what are called idiosyncrasy credits. They're basically credits that buy you the perceived ability to disagree with that group. So if you are close enough with that group, you've earned their trust well enough. Sometimes you can disagree, and it's not that uncomfortable for you. You feel a little more comfortable. Does that make sense? Okay. So far we've been talking about conformity as if it's a bad thing, right? I sort of consider this to be a Western bias. In fact, in Eastern cultures, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Standing out, being arrogant, right? That's a bad thing. Going along with a group, in many instances, even, here, is probably a good thing. We would never get anything accomplished otherwise if all of the jurors disagreed and never conformed. Well, it's always going to be a hung jury, right? If no one ever concedes to someone else's point. There are some instances where also, maybe it's good to conform. Dancing at a wedding, you might not like it, but come on, it might be embarrassing, but it's a pro-social type of thing. You might find out you enjoy it after the fact. So again, I want you to sort of keep that in mind. This is a Western bias to perceive conformity as if it's this negative thing. Okay, questions so far about normative social influence? Okay, I want to talk about another type of conformity, more specifically compliance. What's mindless conformity? Let me give you the definition, then we can go over some examples of mindless conformity. So what is mindless conformity? It's obeying internalized norms without deliberating about their actions. So obeying internalized social norms without thinking, without deliberating about those actions. So mindlessly obeying internalized social norms. What do you suppose are some examples of mindless conformity? Possibly, because we don't have to think about that. We just sort of know we should avoid perceiving brothers as romantic partners, right? but this is more casual. This is, I guess, what we tend to do when we, for instance, pick up the phone. What do we all say? Hello, right? You have to think real hard about that. You just do it, right? Mindless conformity, there are just norms you follow when, for instance, you go to a restaurant, right? You wait for someone to take you to the table, you wait for someone to bring you your food, all that kind of stuff. Eat off someone else's plate, right? So there are many advantages, right? It helps us navigate social situations because we don't have to consciously think real hard about how to do these various things. We just sort of mindlessly do that. Of course, there are some disadvantages, right? What might some disadvantages be to this type of mindless conformity? Or vice versa. You ever have a job where you're trained, hello, this is so-and-so, office of so-and-so, and then you get home and you find yourself doing that on your own home phone, right? So that could be a problem. How about, this always gets me. I think these flight checkers do this on purpose. So as you're going through the security check, that first initial security check, where they look at your ID and then they let you go, say, have a nice flight. You too. You're not going anywhere. Right? Sorry. But, I think they do that on purpose just to sort of mess with you. So sometimes we get it wrong, right? Or at restaurants, you would enjoy your meal. Didn't you? When you eventually eat food, right? I guess. But we know that sometimes we can get it wrong. One funny study, for instance, was conducted by Langer. What they had participants do, or a researcher do, is approach participants who were in the middle of photocopying something basically asked if they could interrupt them and photocopy 5 pages. So here you can see about 60% compliance. Other people are pretty compliant. Okay, you can interrupt me and copy your 5 pages. Well, let's see. It changes if we give an excuse. Excuse me, may I have 5 pages? Or I have 5 pages. May I use the copy machine because I'm in a rush? You can see compliance jump from 60% up to 94%, which is huge. I mean, I guess maybe it makes some sense, but not total sense, right? This guy could have been in a rush too. You don't know. But still, 94% compliant, right? We're not thinking, we're just, okay, sure. But I think the real kicker is this final effect. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the copy machine? Because I have to make some copies. Compliance, 94%. It's the exact same as when they had a maybe more legitimate excuse. So now we have to ask ourselves, what's going on here? Yeah. I just cut that. They did. Yeah, I'm sorry. You could include that was the same text there. Yeah.
It's like people like to know why you're doing something. So if you give a reason, they're going to know the reason at all.
And does it even matter whether or not that reason is legitimate? Again, a notion of we're not really thinking this through, right? Sometimes we just latch onto heuristics. You guys remember heuristics? Those mental shortcuts to decision making? What's the common denominator that really appears to make the big difference? The word because. So the theory here is that because, this word because, is used as a heuristic or a mental shortcut, meaning, okay, this person must have a reason, they said because, right? And we don't think more critically about what that reason is. Is this making sense? So I always sort of think about this whenever I'm writing emails or trying to make compelling statements. I use that word because sometimes, maybe if they're not thinking more critically about my statement, that word because will serve as that heuristic. I do have a compelling argument. I do know what I mean. You should listen to my point. Okay. Questions though about mindless conformity so far? Okay. I also want to review additional principles that predict compliance. And I'm going to stick all these up here. And I'm going to talk about the researcher who listed these compliance-related techniques. Cialdini, for instance, is a famous attitudinal change researcher. He took a sabbatical. He was a professor at the university. Took a sabbatical. Didn't tell anyone what he was going to do on sabbatical. And what he did was he got a job at a car dealership agency and basically didn't tell them that he was a psychology professor and started to study the techniques that were used, started to study the techniques that were effective. And we now know that these principles are principles that do predict compliance. And we know this not only from his research, his field research, but also from subsequent studies. Lots and lots of research show that these factors increase our likelihood to comply with requests. And so what I would encourage you to do, has anyone bought a car? Not to the dealership? Okay, so you guys might have experienced some of these things. And if not, I encourage you to keep your eyes peeled when you do go buy a car, or even when you go buy furniture at, I don't know, Ashley's Furniture. I think you're going to see a lot of these types of principles that can be used, right? First up, friendship and liking. Turns out we are much more likely to comply if we like someone, if we perceive that we're friends, right? How is this established? By sales agents. Get to know you, right? Right? You are going to work with one person. You're going to become friends with that one salesperson. Or at least that's their goal, right? They're going to get to know you. They're going to ask not just, your name, but what you do, who you are, right? To establish that rapport, right? Turns out to be huge. Commitment and consistency. Why would getting that buyer to commit in some way matter? And what sorts of ways do you think we could get that buyer to commit at maybe small levels? starting to make verbal commitments? Absolutely. To the extent that you can get people to make small commitments and maybe even a little bit larger commitments. Hey, do you want to, don't make up your mind now, but hey, just put down a little monetary payment and we'll reserve this for you. You can always change your mind at any point, right? Why is that so important? Why is that commitment something that they want to do?
If you don't go to credit card, you lose that money.
Well, even if you get that money back.
Well, still you've already put like money on it, so you're like,
We know psychologically it changes us.
Yeah, well, we don't want to go after or really like this or that right now. Kind of people want to make it make our decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What social psychological theory explains this? What social psychological theory explains all this? Cognitive dissonance theory, right? You guys have learned that I enjoy this thing. No, right? Why would I have committed my time, my energy, my verbal commitments, my small monetary commitments, if this wasn't really what I wanted, right? I like to believe I'm a rational person who does things consistent with my values. So getting that commitment, that turns out to be a big predictor.
Also, like, I'm ridiculously empathetic. So if I've already committed to really I'm going to get this, I feel bad. I feel like,
Sort of know they get a commission, that kind of thing, right? So that's probably another good reason. Absolutely. And because they've established, like, now you like that person, we can empathize more with people we like. Good techniques. So beware. I'm super now paranoid whenever I walk into a car dealership or sales agency of any sort. Scarcity. What are you supposed to mean by scarcity? What do we try to do when we're describing products?
yeah, we just have very many of them.
Absolutely. They're going fast. If you don't make this decision now, you might lose out, you might miss this opportunity. So that's one thing that they're going to try to do. Reciprocity. What do you suppose we mean by reciprocity in this context? What sorts of things? So I give something to you, you give something to me. All right? You guys know what I mean by reciprocity? So what is always there at the car dealership agency or the fancy furniture store? Free stuff. Yeah. They've got the popcorn stand, right? Coffee. If you like some, right? They're giving you free stuff for a reason, right? Because it'll hopefully encourage you to, engage in reciprocity, right? Give back, right? Return the favor. They're not doing it just for fun. They're doing it for a reason. Social validation. We want to make you feel like the product you're buying is enjoyed by many other people. It's very popular, right? Tons and tons of these cars have been sold. Again, this is really popular kind of thing. Authority. And we will talk in just a moment about why authority really does make a difference. Here's one trick. This happened to me when I was with a friend who was buying a car. She was sort of hedging, she was sort of backing out, not really sure. She wanted to go through with this. So, let's have you talk to the manager. And so we walk into the manager's office and we sit in these chairs that are lower than the manager's chair. The manager's behind the desk. What can we do to make this happen for you? Kind of this perceived legitimate authority figure, right? It turns out there's a reason that happens. And that's because authority figures significantly increase compliance. Makes you feel more intimidated, makes you feel like they're the expert, that you should trust their advice, you should trust what they're saying. So keep all of these things in mind, and I hope to encourage you to see these types of things while you're engaging in various types of interactions with individuals who are trying to sell you products. Another specific technique I do want to talk about, compliance-related technique, is the door in the face technique. Does anyone know what this door in the face technique is? Otherwise, heard of it, but yeah.
it's going to be like start with something really big and then like, oh wait, now let's do something smaller. It's like, oh, that would have been horrible. This is much better. I'll take that.
Absolutely, right? So you hit him with a big price, and then all of a sudden, oh hey, guess what? We can give it to you for this much lower price, right? Or for instance, if I'm asking you to donate money, would you donate $100? No, sorry. How about 10? 100. Turns out that's effective though. If I start out with that big number, I'm significantly more likely to make you contribute that smaller number. What is that?
Like, whoa, this is way better. Like, I don't have to really have 100. Okay.
It's perceived as much better.
I've also heard of like kids telling parents, oh, I work hard, bitch. No, actually, I was fairly stressful.
There you go. Oh, try it out with your parents. No, I shouldn't encourage that, right? Good idea to know that it absolutely could work. What heuristic did we talk about that explains this? You guys remember? A specific heuristic? Starts with an A. Sorry. Anchoring, I think I heard it. Did you say? Anchoring and adjustment, right? Anchoring and adjustment heuristic, right? You give them a large anchor, and then you follow up with a smaller number of participants insufficiently adjust down from 100, right? Oh, well, 50 would have been nicer, but man, 10 is great now. Sure. Build it up in your mind where, oh my gosh, this is going to be awful. And then you hit it with a much easier favor. Absolutely. You know, you can use this in all sorts of ways. So you're an intuitive social psychologist. You're just naturally doing this type of thing. No, absolutely. That makes a lot. And this you can see at car dealerships. The sticker price on the car, is that ever the price of the true value of the car? Yeah. Instead, what you need to do before you go to the dealership is look up the blue book value of that car. Never will they have the accurate value of that car on the sticker car itself. It's always going to be an elevated price because they know that once they hit you with the real price, oh, that's way better than what they look like it was going to be. So it's going to make me psychologically feel better about that decision. I'm more likely to apply. So we've got the door and face technique. We should also talk about the foot in the door technique and why this is effective. What this is where we get people to comply with a small request, and then we follow up with a larger request. So here we get people to comply with a small request, and then we follow up with a larger request. So your door-to-door salesman, you can see this technique. They come by your house, knock on your door. Hey, you know, I want to talk with you for a moment, but before we do, I'm really thirsty. Would you mind go get me a glass of water? Well, sure, water's free. I'm not going to deny you this thirsty individual water. So you've given them this favor, right? You've done a favor for them. Now, can I just take a couple moments of your time to discuss this product with you that I looked up? Okay. Why would having engaged in that favor make us more likely to comply? Cognitive dissonance, right? Well, I've already given you something, right? There must be a reason why I did this favor for you. Because I'm a rational human who does things that are consistent with my beliefs. So this person must be worthy of that favor. So I must continue to listen to you and buy things from you, right? This is making sense? Questions about these two techniques? Very good so far? Okay. So like I said, I want to spend some time talking about the power of perceived authority figures. Because this is possibly one of the most important themes of this course, right? Or one of the most important social psychological studies, arguably of all time. I think it is. I think it's fair to say. So why do we comply with perceived authority figures? So I've got up here a quote from a philosopher who argued that the atrocities of the Holocaust occurred not because participants were psychopaths, but because they were ordinary people bowing to extraordinary pressures, social pressures. Again, we've already talked about how it's legitimately irrational to think that all of the Nazis just so happen to be psychopaths. When in reality we know that the proportion of psychopaths in the population is only 1 to 3%. It couldn't have been the case that all 1 to 3% of the psychopaths were in Germany at the same time in white history, right? It doesn't make sense. So instead, what social psychologists did was start to study. They were horrified, arguably, by the Holocaust, which in turn motivated them to study what could have contributed to this type of behavior, what could have caused these people to engage in genocide, right? To systematically execute and murder all of those Nazis were totally on board with this and really wanted to do this, or were they just sort of following orders? What was it? So what he developed was a study designed to test this. So back in the early 1960s, he recruited participants. These were normal Americans, psychologically healthy individuals. Told them they'd pay them for an hour at a time, and led them to believe that they would be participating in a study testing the effects of punishment on learning. So what happened is they're brought into the lab, and they're told, okay, one of you, so two people are brought into the lab, one of you is going to be the learner, one of you is going to be the teacher. So the learner is going to read, the teacher is going to read to the learner a series of questions. The learner has to get them right, and if the learner doesn't get them right, then the learner is going to receive this electric shock. So here we've got, I might need to turn this down a little bit for you guys to see it, but here we've got the booth where the teacher sits while they're reading the questions. The learner is in a different room and is being fed those questions auditorily. So this sort of shows you the incremental increases in shock voltage that these learners would experience, right? At the very end, you can't really see it well. It's 450 volts. That's technically legal. And it actually says XXX danger. And so the question is, how many of these participants will continue to end? Now, I will say in reality, it's all good, right? It's all great rather. So for instance, that toss of the coin, which one of you is going to be the learner or the teacher? Is always the same. The true participant is always the teacher. The learner is a Confederate who's been on the study, an applicant, basically. So the learner goes into the other room, and instead of actually being shocked, what happens is they're just hearing an audio recording of an actor, basically made up to make it sound like they're getting shocked in this painful type of way. And it becomes more and more painful, and the person starts to scream and beg to be let out, right? And the question is, will the teacher let them out? And before we talk about the results of this original study, I thought I'd show you actual footage of a recent replication of this study. So in the 2000s, I think it's 2004, you know Darren Brown, right? I would show you footage of Darren Brown. He's just basically using social psychology in his mind power studies. We can also talk about the ethics of this, which we will. I'm going to lower these lights so that you can see this a little bit more clearly. But also, as you're watching, I actually do want to do a minute paper. So don't write while you're watching it. I'd rather you watch it fully. But keep in mind that after you're done watching this, what I'd like you to do is explain what you think was the cause of these participants' behavior. Why did they act the way they did, right? And I want you to pay attention to their physiological responses in the context of the situation. What was going through their minds, right? So I'll just, pay attention to what they were experiencing and why you think they did what they did. And I apologize if this is really loud. I want them to maybe adjust the volume.
A week ago, I arranged for them to take part in what they now think is a piece of unfilmed academic research at the university and nothing to do with the show, supposedly looking into the effects of punishment on learning. And they believe now that this is part of their growth.
In fact, it was a reenactment of a powerful experiment conducted by Stanley Milgram in 1963 to look at how normal people can commit atrocious acts simply because they're following orders. Milgram's parents were Jewish refugees in World War II, and his pioneering work speaks volumes about the nature of responsibility. It's being filmed with covert cameras.
Thank you.
They're introduced to an actor pretending to be another participant.
You didn't come from the same room. You don't actually. We don't actually know how punishment affects learning.
After a brief introduction, our subjects are tricked into thinking they've chosen their role as teachers in the experiment.
You could just tell me what your positions are. Learner and teacher. Learner.
Our subjects observe the learner being instructed by the scientist, who is just another actor.
This electrode is connected to a generator in the second room. We won't be going with the teacher.
Okay.
Just make sure that we have a good contact with the skin so it doesn't cause any blistering burns. Is that comfortable?
That's okay.
Again, we just place these straps around our arms just to avoid any excess movement. Those aren't too tight. No, that's okay. The teacher will read out some word pairs to you. Blue.
The learner is told he's going to be asked a series of memory questions by the teacher. He will have to word pairs and then correctly remember them when offered multiple choices.
If the answer is incorrect, you will receive an electric shock.
The teacher is then taken next door and shown the generator, which ranges from 15 volts all the way up to a lethal 450 volts. The domestic electricity supply in the UK is, of course, 240 volts. Our teachers are given a list of questions and told to increase the voltage each time the learner gets a question wrong. They are then given an example of a low voltage shock.
And try and estimate in volts the amount of shock you're going to get.
Okay.
Do you know how much that was?
Enough.
75.
It was actually 45.
Oh my God.
Teacher, again.
Shoe horn steam. The point of this test is to see whether the teachers, our subjects, will call a stop to the experiment or continue to the point where they are administering seemingly lethal electric shocks to the victims simply because the scientist is telling them to.
That's correct. The next one is bicycle. The options tyre, race, helmet, shorts. That's incorrect, so there'll be 120 volts.
I didn't want to do this anymore. If you could continue, please, teacher.
Good. No, I don't think we're doing it.
The experiment requires you to continue.
Yeah, even so, I don't think I'm going to do it.
Correct. According to plan, our accomplice provided many wrong answers. Each protest was coordinated to a particular shock voltage on the generator, and his responses were played via a CD.
That's wrong, 150 volts. The correct answer is Captain Shoe. Cup. That's wrong. 225 volts. He's in a lot of pain.
Continue, please.
But he's not comfortable.
You must continue to do the experiment. The learner likes to not his go until he's learned the words correctly.
Okay. Forest. That's wrong, 240 volts. Are you sure it's not causing any lasting damage? He sounds like he's in a lot of pain.
Well, the shocks might be painful, they're not harmful.
What does that mean, though? They're not harmful. Sorry, I'm not getting you. When you say that they might be painful but not harmful,
It causes no long-term damage.
because does that mean that it doesn't leave any scars?
It causes no damage.
That seems very cold and calculated to me. This doesn't seem like a very. Anyway, Gordon. That's wrong, mate. 300 volts. Staple. The options are diet, jar, balcony, bowl.
If the learner doesn't answer in a reasonable time, say 4 to 5 seconds, and you have to treat the answer as wrong and follow that procedure.
Did you hear that, learner? Just any response, mate, come on. Wild guess.
Please continue.
345 volts, if you're still with me, I'm sorry. I can't do this, honestly. Can we stop this experiment? Because I can't do this.
Don't continue, we'll have to discontinue the experiment.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's fine. I'm not going to do this.
Incorrect. 405 volts. Sorry, I don't know. Someone want to check him or something. He's not making any noise now, he was before. I'm quite happy to go on, but I'm a bit worried about
You should continue.
Yeah, I'm just a bit worried because he was... Like, he was like complaining before about the...
But no harm will come to
But he's not making any noise now.
It's essential that we continue with the experiment.
Balcony. Incorrect. 450 volts. We promise he's not. It won't.
Please continue the procedure.
You said it hurts, but it isn't. Because it's like. It's a very dangerous thing. It'll be alright. Yeah.
Please continue. I think discontinue the experiment now.
All of the subjects were told the true nature of the experiment was to see how they would respond to authority, and that it would eventually form part of this show.
It is okay.
I can tell you, yeah, it's absolutely fine. You actually weren't administering electric shocks to him at all. He is.
In the original Milgram experiment, psychologists were asked to predict how many people would continue to the point that they were administering the highest shock on the board. Their prediction was 0.1%. They were wrong. The results of our experiment were almost identical to the original. Over 50% of participants continued up to 450 volts. The majority of people will administer lethal electric shocks just because a guy in a white coat is telling them to.
450 volts.
450 volts.
450 volts.
450.